Hi, in this video, I want us to have a look at the work of this man. This is William Smith. He's sometimes dubbed the father of English geology. He's a really interesting character and a real innovator within geology, a really important figure in the history of the science. Someone who changed the way that we look at the world through drawing a map. William Smith's observations and his approach to geology are still relevant today. Even though he was working as a geologist at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century. If we think about the history of the time, it was a time of huge technological change. It's the early days of the Industrial Revolution. Britain needed the infrastructure and the fuel to drive that technological change, to drive that industrial revolution on. Smith worked as a key part of this. He made a living as a canal engineer and a mining engineer. Both of these jobs required him to understand the geology beneath his feet. Now, he wasn't a wealthy man. He had to work for a living. This is also the early days of the science of geology, and most of the people involved at the time were wealthy, independently rich, usually men, who had the time and the resources to indulge in this new hobby of geology. Smith, on the other hand, had to apply his understanding of geology to solve real problems as a way of making his living. On Smith's journeys around the country, he collected information about the geology that he was digging through, the geology he was travelling across. And eventually in 1815, he was able to publish this map. This map was absolutely revolutionary. No one had ever looked at the world in this way before. What Smith did was to show the different types and different ages of rock that he identified as different colours on this map. It showed where these rocks got to the surface. Now, he tried to sell this map to landowners, to people who, the wealthy industrialists and the state owners, who would want to know what the rocks beneath their feet contained. Did they contain the black gold of the time, the coal that was going to fuel the Industrial Revolution? Did they contain the metals that were needed to make these new manufactured goods? It was Smith's map that would show that this was the case. Unfortunately, as we'll see, this was so far ahead of its time that really its importance wasn't really appreciated at the time. The costs of making this map, printing this map, and selling the map weren't covered by the money he got from selling them. He ended up bankrupt and imprisoned for his debts. It was a tough life for Smith, but the legacy he leaves us is huge. Smith's observations were based on finding these things on his travels. At the time, roads weren't tarmac like they are today. They were rocks dug out of very local quarries. So when he was travelling around on foot or on horseback, he could find these things in the road or in these little roadside quarries, and he started collecting them. The image on the bottom right here is actually a photograph of drawings from the book he published on these. What do you think they are? What do you think they could tell him? He started to notice patterns within these, sequences of rocks that in different parts of the country that contained the same ones of these. In your booklets, you can have a go at questions parts A, B, and C from question 7. What do you think these are? What do you think they might tell us? Smith, though, wasn't just an academic geologist. He was a very practical man. He earned his living being able to predict where rocks could be found. At the time, the rock that people wanted to find more than anything else was coal. What Smith was able to do was understanding where the different layers of rocks are, understanding the sequence of these rocks, he'd be able to predict where the coal was, and possibly even how deep it was beneath the ground. Diagrams like the one at the top left here show a slice through the ground, showing where the coal seams are. Looking at the sequence of rocks on the bottom right, Smith was able to recognise, because of these things he's finding within the rock, bivalves and brachiopods are both types of shellfish. He knew that if he found carbonicola or lingula in the rocks, then just beneath those, he's going to find coal seams. Above those, he's not going to find coal seams. This was crucial for understanding the geology beneath the feet, being able to find things that couldn't be seen at the surface. Knowing that, you could have a go at parts D, E, F, and G in question 7. Smith's genius, though, wasn't just in feeding the raw materials for the Industrial Revolution. This is his map. It's an amazing thing to see. There are copies of these on display in the Geological Society of London. The National Museum of Wales has the biggest collection of any museum of different versions of Smith's map. If we look at this map, we can see the different colours representing the different ages of rock. Some parts of the country show a lot of detail. The southeast, for example, of England, we see lots of detail there about the geology. Here in South Wales too, the coalfield there, the grey area, is very, very clearly, and as we'll see, quite accurately marked. Other parts of the country, Mid and North Wales for example, where there wasn't much coal to find, there wasn't much interest for him, the detail sort of disappears there. The thing that makes this most remarkable, though, is when we superimpose a modern version of the map. This is our current understanding of Britain's geology. This is the British Geological Survey's map from today. It's amazing just how accurate Smith's map was. The map you're looking at here is the result of 200 years of geological research. It's the result of aerial photos, satellite surveys. The parts that Smith surveyed, remember from horseback, not having seen anything like this before, are really quite remarkable. If we reveal the old map again, we can see just how good Smith's map was. In particular, the coalfields. I mean, that's where the money was. Look carefully at South Wales. You see the main South Wales coalfield, also the small coalfield in Pembrokeshire. See how accurately they've been drawn, those same colours, that they're grey, showing where the coal is. It's truly, I think, a remarkable scientific document. If we go in even closer, this is an example of part of the map from Lincolnshire and parts of Yorkshire. The way that's been drawn is amazing. The darker shades show the bottom of these ages or these types of rock. They get lighter then as we get to the top. So we can actually see the structure in the rocks. And again, if we compare it with a modern map, it's incredible how accurate Smith was able to be just based on his own research, just based on his own work. Okay, there's a series of videos that tell you a bit more about his life that I'd like you to watch. We also have the questions about Smith's interpretation of these features that he saw and how he was able to put his map together. Watch the videos and then have a go at those questions. If you have any questions about William Smith's life, ask me next time you see me in class. I'll see you then.